We
Just
can.
fine.
Very good. So I heard you going over some of the stuff. Thank you, Linda, for keeping this going while I got kind of set in place. Wow, a lot of people on here today. Look at that. I can't even count that many.
Looks like it says 26.
Wow. Yeah,
That's crazy.
5, 10, 15, 20. I got 25 just on my screen, and it says page 2 over here. So very cool. As you can see, I'm still at my office, so I haven't left to go home yet. So that's why I was running late getting back here to the office. But I want to thank everybody for joining. For anybody that's new, this is Judge's Corner. So welcome to Judge's Corner. For the most part, I started this a couple years ago, and we I made it an extra outlet for when you got things scored in category or scored in competition, but didn't really see good comments for it. I guess we could call it that. I don't want to say that there was bad comments, but didn't get good comments, or you wanted to understand more what the judges were talking about or how they scored it or what they meant with some of the comments they made. We kind of started this. So it's kind of evolved into other things. It's kind of gone hand in hand with beginners group when we're doing some beginners group activities as well. And of course, this one tonight is the composition competition. So we did a couple of beginners groups talking about composition and photography, trying to read and understand what we're shooting, how to place it within the frame, maybe the subject or lighting the subject or placement of the subject, giving it better appeal to the viewer. So that's kind of what the competition is about. I wanted to emphasize a little bit more on the composition value. Not that I wanted bad pictures or ugly pictures turned in, but just I wanted the pictures to have more of a compositional value. I wanted to talk about a couple things before we start looking at the pictures, because I like when people have questions and they ask a lot of questions. And a couple beginners groups ago, we had a guy that was he was kind of going after me on some of the things. Why does it need composition? You know, good pictures are just good pictures. And we kind of went back and forth a little bit. And I didn't mean to make fun of him, but we were talking about Ansel Adams. And when we talked about this one Ansel Adams picture, and I said, you know, it has rules of composition, it has rules of thirds, it has different values in it. And he came back saying, you don't always need composition. And then we talked about an image, and he's like, well, yeah, this, you know, just because this mountain's in the third and the trees over here are in the third. And I'm like, oh, I like your comments, because you're telling me what I've actually taught for 2 beginners groups. And then I didn't mean to hurt his feelings, but I think I hurt his feelings a little bit, because then he didn't come back as much. I don't know if he's on here or not. You know, I'm not going to point out who it is or anything. But that's not the point. The point is that he was seeing what I was talking about, and he was seeing it in the pictures by the second, because he came to both beginners groups for composition. And by the second time he was there, he was pointing things out. And I said, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, maybe Ansel Adams just had it in his brain saw things that way, so he didn't have to think about it. But someone, you know, like myself, I have to think about it a little bit more. And I look at things, no matter if I'm shooting racing or I'm shooting, you know, flowers, or I'm shooting people, I always try and look for a good compositional value, because it definitely adds to any image. So I did want to say that. I had 20 something entries, somewhere around there. I picked out 10. So I was going to do 10, and then I went back tonight and I went through them again, and I ended up picking out 11. So I picked out 11 that we wanted to talk about tonight. We're going to go through, and what I'm going to do is kind of go through them first. And I don't mind if somebody has a question, you know, yell out. You know how I am. I like to have participation, but I'm going to go through them first and talk about them a little bit. And then we're going to go back through them again, and I'm going to kind of pick out who I think is winners or lose. I don't want to say the word that I just almost said, halfway, but I want to pick out the winners where I think are the advanced ones. And we'll talk about them more on the second round. So if everybody's happy with that. Okay, let me share the screen. It always takes me a minute because I usually have about 15 work things open. And cool. Hopefully that takes up most of the screen. So I don't know how to get these off the bottom here. We did this last time, right? If anyone knows how I get that out of there, we go. Never mind. Got it. Cool. So this is the first image. Some of these images didn't have titles, which I'm not worried about. This wasn't about a title thing anyway. So actually, I'll talk about something else. Just because this image came up first, I had it first. I had the opportunity to judge the CSN portfolio event for the scholarship that we give out for one student in photography. And I also talked about this during the judging competition, is the subject matter always has appeal or, power to the viewer. And when we walked in there, we had 3 displays to look at, or 3 portfolios to look at. And it was funny because all 3 of the judges, myself included, we all went over to images that kind of relate to this one here, because it was something we know. There was great architectural stuff. There was some really nice boudoir stuff, but we all kind of migrated over to what we knew, which was Red Rock. And I can see this here as well as Red Rock. So that's one thing I talk about when we're trying to enter competitions. If you're going towards magazine submissions, you kind of want to, photograph stuff or enter stuff that has to do with that magazine, because it's always going to do better. If it's something that kind of doesn't appeal to what their viewers like, it's not going to score as high. And so that was something I thought about when we walked in. I thought about talking about it. And of course, when I looked at the images, these aren't necessarily in any order, outside of, I put them all in a big pile and I just kind of picked out things I wanted to talk about and selected them out. This one kind of came out first. And I think that same thing, you have a little bit of impact with subject matter because you're familiar with it. It's familiar surroundings. It's even when we judge, we're more comfortable judging things we know about than judging things we don't know about, because we're always scared we're going to say the wrong thing. If I brought this one up and I started talking about Valley of Fire, and you're worried that someone's going to think, oh, he doesn't know where this is because he's not talking about the right place. And also judging competition. I was talking about, I can't remember the name of it, but I was talking about a place that I didn't know. And I said, this might score a little bit higher, but I really don't understand the image as far as a location. And I know a lot of places, but every once in a while something comes up and I don't actually know what it is. But okay, I'm done chattering. Back to the pictures. So my first look when I see this is, I like all the texture and the focus throughout. I like the clouds. The clouds add a lot of impact to the rest of the image. Subject matter being the red rock, which is familiar, but also the clouds add a lot of impact to it. What I would really have liked to have seen is for the photographer to get lower, and that way this cactus would rise up into the sky a little bit. So the cactus would reach kind of above your horizon line. Because right now, even though you have some of the little petals and the fruit and the buds, they kind of mix right in with the horizon line, and we have a little bit too much sky. So if we could take a little bit of sky out, and this cactus could rise up a little bit above that horizon line. I think it would add a lot more compositional value to the image. Okay, we're gonna go to this next one. I like how the horizon is low. And kind of relating to the other image, I like how this cactus rises above that horizon line. It's kind of dead and not a lot of interest, but in a skeletal way, it has a lot of interest because if you know the yucca plant, then you know there was a flower and a bloom and everything that shot up out of there. So it's kind of a memory for us per se for someone that actually chases flowers and goes out to shoot flowers. You kind of know this was there at one point. I like how the sky is coming down and you have the beam of light on the ground. Now, on my monitor, the beam of light looks really nice. Where it's coming through the clouds looks a little bit blown out. So my eye does kind of tend to stay up there in the top a little bit versus going around the image a little bit more. I like all this extra space. I think the extra space adds a lot to this image. That's not the case on every image, but for this one here, I think it's nice and it adds a lot. This being pictorial, I like the pastel color of the sand, the little mountain range in the back, and the sky all blend together. And I think that's a very nice touch. I don't think it would hurt it if you added a little bit of yellow or orange to make it almost kind of a sunset feel. It may add a little more impact. It might not. I think this is very nice standing how it is. So, okay, we're going to move to this next one. Okay, so I don't know if any of the other judges that are on here get as many emails or calls after competition as I do. But I was just at Canon is here at Stacy Foster. A lot of you guys know Stacy Foster with Canon through me. Was just here at the BNC because they were doing a cash for cameras thing. So a lot of people in and out of there. I saw a bunch of Camera Club members. Always love to see that. It's great to say hi to people when they're there, especially if Joe, the owner, notices. That makes him want to do more stuff with the club because he sees the people there. So nice to see everybody there. But also I ran into somebody who sends me a lot of emails about judging, about the competitions, about the judges' comments, and again, when we just did this this discussion for Nevada Camera Club on the judging process and how to judge and be a judge, it was great to have a lot of new members sit up there and try and talk. Some of them very good about expressing how they feel, and some struggled a little bit, and that's part of the process. Even I struggle sometimes when I see things. The reason I'm talking about this so much is we just had a competition, and I actually had a couple people point out that there was a lot of images that had two things, and there was a lot of comments from a judge or a couple of judges that said this would look nicer with three. And this here has the three, and that's kind of why I'm bringing up all this commentary. Is three is supposed to be a pleasing number. Now, one or two, is kind of what it is. 4 and 6, you're going to hear a lot of judges say, well, this could be cut in half. If it's 6, you could do 3 and this would be better. Or if you took one out and you only had 5, it would have a stronger, feel to it, and blah, 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 blah. And I get all that. But this here has a lot of threes. It has the 3 people in each boat. It has 3 boats. It has 3 sails. It has 3 in a row. What I like about this the most is that you capture these 3 in a row, and I don't know, they might be tethered together. So, so that was the only way you could have captured them, but it worked out in a pleasing manner. The 3 red tops of the sails, I think, gives you a lot of impact because it draws your attention right in. Now, brain wise, I know that most of the jackets are probably orange, but they kind of go well with the red. So it adds a good view, a good feel when you're going up and down through the image. Nice to have all 3 of these in a row, but also on kind of a diagonal. Now they are going away, which is not so much bad for boats. I know I've talked about that with animals. We don't want to shoot their butts because that's not necessarily always the most interesting. With the boats, it's not as bad because the boats still have different interest around them, no matter which way they're facing. I also like that the boats are going from the left to the right, kind of the way we read. Also, again, that's just a good feeling of how we see things. I would like to see a little extra room at the top and maybe a little extra room on the right side, but not necessarily. I'm just throwing that out there because we don't want to get this too far out where the boats all kind of fall into the left side of the image.
Yeah, and the years progress, the accident tends to get deeper, deeper, richer.
I think the compositional value is the first boat is kind of in the rule of thirds, and the others follow into the frame, which leads you in. So that's very nice. The diagonal lead in is also very nice. The color palette is also very nice. Okay. We are going to move to the next one here. So I like the wave of that mountain in the back that also matches the wave of this brush in the front. Having the blue heron in focus and everything else out of focus, I like a lot. That really adds and that draws, even though I like and I feel that wave of motion through there, I am still drawn to the heron that's very much in focus. A little too much space, I feel, in this image. We could have taken a little bit off the top, maybe even a little bit from the right side. I like that he has room going in. I just feel that he might have a little too much room to travel. Of course, a few minutes ago, I said that having all that extra space is really nice. I think here we need to take maybe just a little bit away. The really drawback for me is this bush on the left side, the kind of skeletal bush that is sticking in there. I think that can go away altogether because I think it's taking away from the image. When I do look over there, it kind of draws me from all the niceness. All the rest of this right side adds to the image. Again, I'm liking the pastel feel and color, not a lot of color range, but I think that feels really good through here. It's got layers because you have those bushes and then you have the mountains and then you have just that plain white background. Again, a lot of times we don't like to see the plain white background, but here within this image, it feels really good and it flows really well throughout the image. Okay, we are going to go to the next one. Okay, so little barn, horizon in the back, with clouds in the sky, grass in the front. I do like this leading road. It kind of comes in and makes a sharp curve back through there, kind of leads you in and back into the mountains, right past the barns and trees there. Barn and the trees, I think, being our main subject of focus. We come in, I kind of like that it's kind of dark here and it gets a little bit brighter in the background behind the trees. That makes the trees pop out quite a bit. So very good with that perception. We kind of have two horizon lines. I like the brown horizon line, and then we have that next horizon line. I'm guessing that's just further back throughout the landscape. I'm not saying it's terrible. I just don't think it's adding a lot to the front part of this image. Now, this is one of those aspects where I don't know how you could have done anything to change that. I think going down lower may have not gotten rid of that. Being up higher, you're probably going to see it. And I don't know if it's been changed in color or if it's just kind of shaded from all that dark sky in the background. The clouds have a little bit of interest. I almost kind of wish the clouds and everything would have been all together instead of having that other landscape, because it kind of separates the front landscape from the back landscape. And although a lot of times we like to see a lot of layers and a lot of layers will add to an image, I think there's too many layers to this image, and it's just not helping it. This is not a bad picture by all means. I really like the barn. It'd have been great if that front barn was a little red like the back one is. But you know, some things they're not in our control and we have to work with what we have at hand. Very nice though. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one. Okay, so compositionally, we talked a little bit about framing, not a lot, and we're going to get into some more things like that. So it's like I'm pleased that you worked on this and you tried this, because I like the framing, I like the frames, and we have a couple images that have that. More of the stuff we worked on was really basic foundations of the subject and placement and rule of thirds and the lines and diagonals, but this is very nice with the framing. Having the one or two on the side be on the left side, we have two at the top, one kind of in the middle. I think that is kind of distracting. The tree and the branches on the other side, I think, are a little bit better, and I do like the tree tops that are sticking out of the bottom. Nice blue water. I kind of like the little green reflection in the water in the front off that little peninsula, the tree that's on the peninsula. We have the trees coming in the back, and then we have the mountain range in the top. I'd like to see a little more sky above the top. Technically, our horizon line is kind of in the middle, because our horizon line for this image is basically the water and the tree line. If we kind of tilted up a little bit and got a little more sky, I think that would bring the horizon down a little bit, or we would make the horizon our mountain range in the top. Now, looking at the sky, it looks like it was kind of bold and bland, you know, bald and bland. So you probably didn't want to show that, and I understand that. Because again, we as judges, sometimes we don't like that bland sky, even though it's a nice blue or whatever. There's no interest up there. So maybe just trying to come down a little bit and focus more on this tree and even cut the rest of that sky out of the top may have impacted a little bit more. But the framing, good job working on that, and I like that a lot. Okay. We're going to go to the next one. So a different subject mind, which is very good, because we've kind of been stuck in one subject demeanor as far as kind of landscape and well, most of them along the landscape line. So having something different is a big impact right off the bat. Once again, that goes back to subject matter. I like what you've done to the trumpet. I like that little filter or whatever's been applied. I've seen this on a couple things. I don't actually know if it's just a filter plug-in or if it's something you actually have to take time to do, but I do like it. I love the hands. The hands, I think, add a lot. Trying to get my, oops, sorry, I touched my touch screen. Trying to get my people out of my way, and all my people on this side. Oop, there we go. I feel that having the watch is a little bit of a distraction because it's silver and it's bright and it kind of competes a lot with your main subject. Now, I kind of thought about maybe if we crop that out, it would be better. But then I think, we're kind of crunched in to our subject with not a lot of room for movement. So I think trying to crop that out is going to even be harder and tighter, and that's not going to help. Maybe coming out a little bit more and just darkening up that watch or that corner, putting maybe a little vignette on this bottom corner, I think would help and kind of keep us drawn into that subject, which the main subject. I mean, we kind of have a threes here because we have the trumpet and the two hands, or the trumpet, the hands, and the mouth and the bottom jaw. And I wouldn't even mind seeing maybe just a little bit more of his face. Maybe not the eyes, because eyes have a attention span of drawing people into them. So keeping the eyes cut out, I think, is a good thing. But maybe just a little more room to play around and really see his jawline and the hands would bump this up quite a bit. And just darkening out that watch, because obviously we can't get rid of it and it can't be cropped out. So, okay. We're going to go to the next one here. So, very nice shot of this owl. We have his feet, we have his whole feather plumage. He's got his wings kind of drawn out a little bit. I love that he's looking backwards. A lot of times people will take, whether it's a people or an animal, and because he's looking backwards, it might have been cropped off at the back, but we don't want that. We want him looking and having space to look into. So very good, looking into that and seeing that. The background is got some great depth of field out of focus and a lot of focus on the animal, great focus on the eye. I think this is handled extremely, incredibly nice. He's in a rule of thirds. He's looking back, maybe a little more space, maybe a little bit less space. I don't think that really matters in this case. I think it could have gone either way, and it's going to be just as strong how it is. I love seeing the wings drawn out all the way across the whole image. I think that's a great presentation of the animal itself. The lighting, you just caught spot on. So very nice. Okay, we're going to go to one more. Okay, so last one, I haven't read any titles because I wasn't really about the titles. I'm going to read this one just because if anybody wants an understanding of what it is, I mean, I think it's a really great abstract image. This is Grand Prismatic at Yellowstone. So it's part of that ground that changes colors and the heat rises. And I think that's what a little bit of the rises, the clouds in the blue back part of that. Very nice, very colorful. I think a lot of impact right when you look at it. The blues and the warms I'm always talking about, they just complement each other exceptionally well. I like having a lot of this design and graphic in the front. It's kind of going horizontal, and then you have the orange kind of waves coming towards you, and then you have that blue line in the back. I think this is a great abstract. I don't have a lot of compositional feeling for it. Placement wise, I can't tell if it's fitting in a rule of thirds. I can't tell if the subject should be left or right. But once again, that does not make this a bad image at all. This is going to score very high in any kind of abstract category. So very nice. I wish I was there. I wish I took this picture. Okay. We're going to go to the next one. So I think I like most of the lighting. There's a little sliver of lighting on the left. I think it probably could have been cut out. I like the light in the entryway and on the brick round building in the back. The front part is, I think it's good we don't have the light on it because it would have been too harsh. I think having this part in the shade and actually that right part without that little triangle lighting portion all the way left, I think gives good feeling for these towers. You have good texture in them. I think the harder light would have made it too textury or too hard and too harsh. I like having that opening off on kind of a rule of third with the building in the background. It actually, no matter which side of the image you're on, you come down to that building. It draws you in left and right all the way to that center point of the building, not center of the image, but center of the building. It works with the sun on the background. The background towers back there were all these dirt mounds. I think this is Cathedral Gorge and all the lines up and down and across horizontally. The clouds are very nice. There's a good catch having all those clouds in the background. I don't know if it's just me, my eyes or my brain or my monitor. Everything seems to be a little bit yellow. So my guess is it's probably either sunrise or sunset, and we're getting a really warm tone. Since these are already warm, I think it would be better to color correct at least the sky and have the sky more white and blue. And I think it's going to add better contrast between the sky and the dirt. And I think that would add more impact. You know, we have impact with the clouds, but I think just that color tone is going to add a little more impact working between the two, because right now we have warm dirt and we kind of have warm yellowish clouds, and it just kind of clashes or flows together instead of working back and forth complementary to each other. Okay, so we have one more. And again, if we talk about subject matter, you know, I'm only bringing that up for this, because if this was a landscape competition, having a different subject matter like this is not going to be good. You know, it's possibly just going to get tossed out and not looked at again. But having a mixed palette of images, again, talking like about PSA or PPA, where everything gets judged against everything. You have a color division and you have a monochrome division, and everything goes mixed in. So sometimes putting something like this is kind of a little bit out of the ordinary. And maybe it's not for this photographer, but for competition wise, if you see what's all in there and you try and jump out of the box by doing this, it could be a big benefit, because right when this comes up, even in a group of images, you're kind of like, oh, wow, it really kind of pops out of there. Of course, that red helps, as always, that the red helps. But having this frog be yellow and having him on a red flower, again, you kind of have a little bit of complementary color working together. His eye is really sharp. I like how his back kind of curves up into a rule of thirds. Now he's kind of at the front image, the front of the image, meaning his face is kind of close to the side, but it kind of works in this because you have the flower coming back down. So you almost have kind of a circular motion. I see this sticking up, and first response was it kind of bothered me, but then it took me a minute, and I look at that and I come up here to the red flower, and then I kind of come up his back and see his eyes down to his nose, and I kind of just have a circular motion, almost kind of mesmerizing, that keeps me inside the image. So very nicely handled. Okay, so that was a lot of goods, bads, ideas, I think, the way I see things. And I kind of wanted to go back through them again. I'm going to close this for a minute. So no, I don't need to close it for a minute. I just need to get rid of that. Put that back down there. There we go. And we're going to go back to the beginning. And I just want to know if anybody wants to comment or wants to talk about anything. It can be the maker, it can be another judge.
Yeah, this is Steve. Just popped on. This is mine, and you actually answered one of my questions that I've always had about this image. Would it be better with the tree kind of reaching further into the sky? And I've got a couple other images from Red Rock that are kind of similar. I've always wondered or kind of battled with myself whether to have the trees up. Sometimes they do tend to look goofy, in my opinion, but it's good to have somebody else's.
So I do a lot more of people, and actually I do a Cancun workshop, which is all people, and we shoot a lot in the morning and a lot sunrise and sunset on the beach. And I'm always complaining or griping about people that put the horizon line right here in the head, or right here where it like chops their head off and their head's like sitting on the horizon. So I always try and get people either shoot from a higher vantage point, that way the model is into the blue of the water, or get down low where the horizon line's across their back or mid drift. That way they kind of rise above the water coming in, and then you have a little bit of sky. So yes, I think that would help tremendously. So I just feel that the horizon line is just kind of a placer in the image. You kind of want to keep it off of center most of the time. There's times when we want it in the center, but most of the time we want to keep it off center where it's in the bottom third or the top third. And I think this would be outstanding with that cactus just stretching or reaching into the clouds.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. Anybody else have anything?
Well, I think your comment before that there's too much sky, and of course you have to balance your horizon by taking that down, but about the top third of that sky area reduced, I think would bring that plant up and make it more significant.
Yeah. Well, so let me to respond to what you're saying. Yes, I said I think this image would be better with a little bit of the sky out because it would bring the horizon line up. But I also think that if you were able to get in this same spot again and you crouch down and that
Okay.
cactus reached up, you'd probably be okay with that sky.
Totally understood.
It would balance it out.
Mhm.
So yeah, very good. Okay, we're gonna go to this next one. Okay, so I talked about the pastel look. I talked about the placement of this little yucca tree and the little bloom sticking up there. This might be white sands. I've been there a couple of times and it kind of looks like it, but I'm sure there's other white sandy places on this earth that I haven't been. But anybody like to comment on this or talk about it or questions?
You're right, it's white sands. I took it.
Very nice, good image. I
Thank
love it.
you. It was it had been raining off and on, so that's why it's so monochrome.
Yeah,
It was just really flat day. And then this beam of sun came through, so I thought it was cool.
yeah. No, I mean, I like it just how it is presented. I think maybe a little stickler, if this is a pictorial, I might just take. this-
Alyona Storazenko, or one other.
Uh-uh. That wasn't me.
It's something came on. Yeah, but I might just, I touch things and oh man. Yeah, I might just, clone this one out with a little bit of sand. Everything else up here and the rest of it is like just impeccable. I think it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else? Question, comment? We're gonna move to next image. Oh, this was one thing I was talking about was the rule of thirds and the odds, a rule of odds. So having 3 or 5 or 7 or 9, and then yeah, I don't think it matters much after that, because if you're trying to count 9 or 10 of anything, then you're missing the point of the image, I think. Any comments or questions?
Well, my thought is that there could be, I think it would improve, but that's my opinion, if you had a little more space above the mass.
Yes.
And then possibly just a little more on the left side. Fully not squeezing the right side any closer, but it just feels like it's a little compressed, but it's a nice image.
Okay, perfect. Yes, no, I agree. I think I did say that earlier. Maybe, I'd like to see just a little bit more space on top. And if you go and change the image, it doesn't mean that I'm always 100% right. I'm just trying to look to see what would be the best. I like the image, just sometimes it's not, in my brain, it doesn't always click perfectly every time. Because I said, maybe a little bit more here, and I know John was just saying maybe a little bit more back here for the lead in, and all those could work, and it's a great image. And I remember this in competition. I believe it scored very high. Cool. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so I talked about this maybe having a little too much space around it. Maybe taking that tree out of this side and maybe taking a little bit off the top and maybe even some off the right side, just to focus a little bit more on the bird. I know I'm looking at from the maker's point of view, I can see you wanted the bird here because you probably have a succession of shots maybe coming across and having him hit that horizon line. I'm going to be like, my ADD's kicking in, it's touching the horizon line. So I absolutely love the placement of the bird. I think just the overall image might have a little bit too much space around it.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to comment or questions?
Well, I actually think that the negative space enhances it because this bird can travel when it's going. I'm not offended by the bush to the back at all. It actually gives it a starting point. It probably just jumped off that tree. And, but I think the placement, like you said, you got that little valley where the mountain comes down, and that's just a beautiful spot for those wings to droop in. Ceiling, maybe sky could come down a little, but I think it's a great image. So,
Jerome, I liked your idea of fuzzing out that extra branch on the left, but I think I would also take down about the top third or so. That's going to put the heron almost at the center line, but I think he's still got plenty of room to move. You've got the undulating background there, the undulating of the trees. So I think then the bird and the flow work together.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, Ron.
Yeah, I probably would have cropped it in because I just think it's a stunning picture of the bird. I feel like I kind of losing the details in the wings and stuff. I mean, obviously I'm looking on a computer, but I feel like it'd be nicer if I had more of the bird and, you know, bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this has more of an artistic feel to it than a standard wildlife shot. So, I mean, most definitely, I like, you know, a lot of the space. It's kind of like a big artsy kind of thing you would see on the wall. So, okay, so we're gonna go to the next one. Any questions or comments on this one? Trying to keep all my stuff together here.
I actually thought that was an ocean in the background. But you guys are from Nevada, so it could not be.
Well, I don't think this is a Nevada picture. I mean, I'm not going to say 100%, but we don't have a lot of areas in Nevada that would have that much grass. Very close to Nevada, and you know, it could be California, it could be Utah, but you know, I don't know the location, so I can't really comment on that.
Blue, Washington.
This is Washington. Oh,
Yeah, I don't.
Could be.
You said maybe Washington.
It's called Palouse area.
Oh, the Palouse.
The Palouse, yeah.
You know, the background, the sky, that is not an ocean or anything. It's part of the sky. It's the cloud. It's the bluest part is the sky, and then the cloud kind of breaks. I'm shooting from the top of the hill down to the valley. And-
Okay. This is all sky right here.
Yes, it's all
Oh,
part
wow.
of the sky.
Wow.
Because the cloud just broke that way.
It's very cool. I mean, most definitely, it's very cool. And I was, you know, I was kind of saying maybe the color is out of this because of that dark sky over there. But if that's also part of the sky, that kind of makes sense. It's just, you know, it's like one of those things where you see something and I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. And then I take a picture of it and I'm like, well, that's not what it looked like when I was trying to take a picture of it. And you can't kind of get it to look like what you thought it looked like in your brain to transfer over to the camera. So that's kind of how I feel in my head.
If I lighten up the blue part a little bit to match the cloud a little better, then you may not see that much of the separation.
Right.
So where are your eyes drawn on this one? You know, you tend to go to the light, to the clouds, and that what I call the ocean, but it's not. The subject doesn't really draw me in strong on this particular one because you've got that nice sky pattern there. It kind of pulls me away. I believe the subject's supposed to be the barn, but it's not what you call a strong impact on the subject, but it's a nice shot.
And, you know, and I was talking about a certain person that was at the beginners group last time, and he's saying, you know, sometimes it's just a good picture. And I agree with that because I think this is a good picture. This has a lot of values. I mean, you know, we have the road leading in, we have the barn in the third, we have, you know, this is the horizon line, which I talked about before. It's just this part here, it doesn't work for me. That doesn't mean it's not going to work for somebody else. But you know, horizon lines in a good third spot. The problem I think is our eyes are going around the image, but you're almost kind of here. You're trying to figure out what's going on there. You're here, here. It's a good image. It might not be just because things are a good image, they might not be good for a competition. And I'll go back to a guy I said I get a lot of emails from about competitions, and him and I had this discussion yesterday as well. And I told him, I said, you know, sometimes you got to understand that because you take something and it's really hard to take it, that doesn't mean the judge needs to score it that way. Because to the judge, and what they see, it might be really simple, and not as fanatic or artistic as you think it is. And I use the word fanatic, meaning, you know, when I go out and I shoot something, if I see something exciting, I'll just keep I could shoot the same thing all day long, 1,500 different ways. And I think that's what he does is he puts so much time and effort into shooting something, and then he puts it in competition and he expects it to get a good score and it doesn't, so he gets kind of upset over it, which you shouldn't. I mean, you know, it's like I've done so many things that I thought were great and people just beat them up to death. I get more excited about an image that doesn't do as good because so many more people talk about it, like this one, kind of more people are talking about it and talking about different things. I think that is better than just having an image and someone goes, wow, good image, you know, because I think it adds more retention and artistic manipulation to what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. So amazing image. I think it fits some of the compositional values. On the outstanding side, I don't think it was going to get a 27. Again, my opinion. So, you know, you could put this in competition and 3 other judges are going to say, wow, this is most amazing. And that can happen. And I give kudos to that because everybody's going to see something a little bit different. And that's what's wonderful about it. You know, art is so overly whelmed because it's supposed to be so much better in photography. And I don't think it is, because I think photography can draw a lot more attention than art pieces, whether they're abstract or whether they're landscape like this, because this is an image that it's not simple. And you could sit here and look into it and see different things. I see the other house, I see the fences, you know, I was actually looking around. I think that's a horse trailer there. And I was kind of trying to find a horse when I was initially going through these, you know, just to see what else I could talk about in it.
So I don't know if the maker's close to this place or not, but it would be fun to see this in the fall when all those deciduous trees have color on them. It could be a completely different image.
Yeah, well, if this is the Palouse, which I think Ian said, then usually the Palouse is shot 2 times a year, which is when everything is green and rolling fields, or when it's dead, like this field is in the back. And that's the 2 big things about the Palouse. I was up there and I did teaching programs, and actually Stephen and I were supposed to go here, and it just didn't work out for us. So we couldn't even get there. I couldn't even get there to take a bad picture. Just, you know, just how it goes sometimes. So I love this. I mean, it has a lot of artistic value to it.
It's a place I would go to different times of the year because I like the setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's like me with Valley of Fire. You know, I will drop everything. Well, I'm not good at dropping everything. I work 20 hours a day, but I will run out to Valley of Fire every chance I get. And I will shoot the same thing over and over every time I go out there. I shoot the road, I shoot this way, I shoot that way, and I try and see, sun coming up, sun coming down. Where's all the bighorn sheep at? So that's something I do all the time. So I've got a lot of different looks out there. I've got snow, I've got sun, I've got. I'll be out there shooting when it's halfway dark, and Ed will pull up in a truck and go, "Hey, what are you doing?" So yeah, if I had somewhere like this to go, I would definitely be out there all the time. Truthfully, any of us that have been in Vegas for, 30, 40, 50 years, we should have pictures of all these damn hotels. And I kicked myself in the butt for not having more pictures of the hotels and walking down the strip more often. So just a thought. Okay, we are going to move to next image. So comments or questions?
I'm thinking that lower branch on the left side, that's just above that tiny little tree.
Right
If
here.
if that would disappear and disconnect off of that, the image that we're focusing on, that might be an improvement. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, earlier I said I didn't like this one. I didn't like this one. I didn't like this one. I'd like to probably just clone those out or crop them out or something. I think the sky is just a little short. So I would like to, I think our image is this tree and this little peninsula
Right.
and this
But it's-
reflection.
but
I
it's
kind
being-
of like the little reflection.
But it's being connected to the left side by that one branch.
Correct.
And I'd like to see it stand alone. But that's just me. I just.
Yeah, no, and again, I don't want anyone, to feel bad about their images. All these images are great, and that's why I picked them out. But it would have been great if I'm standing here taking the picture, it would have been great if I could move this way just a little bit, and maybe all that stuff would have gone away and still hopefully had a couple of these trees. And I would like to crop this in to the tree trunk, because having these little inlets here, the blue, the mountains, the water, that kind of takes me away. It takes my eye away for a minute. We don't want that to happen. So I think cropping right here and being able to get rid of these branches would have helped us a lot. Good color. I like the lighting, lit on one side and a little bit shady on the other side. I think that looks really nice. Reflection, it would have been also nice if you were on a tripod, if you did a little bit longer exposure, this would have been a little bit more accentuated in that reflection, because this water would have smoothed out, and that really would have been great. So, just things next time, if you're in the same situation, something to try a little bit more. Cool. Okay, we are going to move. Next one. So I talked about the subject and the hands and the face, what I liked, and then I talked about the watch kind of taking my eye away. One thing I didn't talk about is, I like the diagonal line coming in, and you have these diagonals and even the fingers. It kind of all really works together. I think that is our main chunk of image. I think just a little bit more, I think this is all good here, just a little bit more over here, a little bit more, maybe a little bit more on the top, and just a nice vignette around that kind of darkened this out would have been really nice. Anybody else comments or questions?
Well, I know you don't like the watch, but it does add class to the trumpeter. Technically would match the brass or the chrome look on the horn. It does with the keys up above. Either way, I would be okay, but it doesn't offend me, I guess, as much as it does you.
Right.
I want to hear the album.
I don't know, I get that Herb Albert kind of feel just looking at it.
I probably would have added that texture, that overlay to the bottom part under his little finger. Because I mean, the keys, I like how I left that, yeah, just that part, it just feels like it wasn't completed. You know, it would have, because the other little knobs match the top knobs, but that one just feels like it probably should have been added to the effect.
That could be. Yeah, and I did kind of see that. And when I was looking at the watch, you know, my eye goes here, my eye goes to the ring, my eye goes to the ring. But these things that were within that subject zone, I will call it, didn't stand out as much as coming all the way down the arm. So, and you know, I like this because I think it doesn't have as much, maybe as much glare as we got off the watch, or as much shiny, you know, it kind of has its own impact that draws me in. You know, you look at the face, you see the I'm guessing it's all silver, like you said. You know, for all we know, this is gold and the watch is gold, and it just kind of emphasized with the black and white is silver, but it's a very nice image.
This is Amy. I like the image a lot. I would like to know what process it is. And I think that, you know, everyone's welcome to their own opinion. I think if we did have that glowing thing on the bottom of that thing, I think that would be distracting, and my eyes would go there to that little piece.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
I didn't find the watches as distracting, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah. If does anybody know what this effect is?
What that effect? No.
Okay.
Jerome, it's a red fin filter.
I'm sorry, one more time.
A red fin filter.
Red fin is,
Yes.
so that is that like an Adobe plugin or?
I think it's its own standalone, but it might be an Adobe. It's been a while since I used it.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen it on other images, and I've always thought it looked really cool. It's kind of like almost like a spider web effect, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's something that works off of shiny things, right?
Yeah, they use
Like
a lot
light.
of old cars.
Yeah, I see it on cars and stuff like that. It's very cool effect. Okay, we're gonna move to next image. So this is a fledgling western burrowing owl. A couple of people have these in their yards. I think those are very native to Nevada and the desert. So any questions or comments?
I think part of it is the excellence of the image is what I'm going to call the attitude of the burrowing owl. Am I doing it right, Bob? I mean, I can just see that in the face.
Yeah. You know, just about every owl I have ever shot has that devious, if not, you know, screeching, heart-wrenching look on their face.
Yeah,
Okay.
hey, this is Steve on this one. I love the owl. It's gorgeous. It took me a split second to figure out which way it was looking because it just kind of looked odd. Is there a way to get rid of the kind of the noise in the background at all? Because for me, that was a little distracting on it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's noise as far as ISO noise or if it's a little bit of color noise. If they sharpen it a little bit, you know, the sharpening will add some noise. I don't remember what size image that got. I don't, or what size image I was sent. You know, I kind of had a spec of what I wanted. There was a couple that were a little bit small. But yeah, I think you could run it through a little bit of noise software and it would probably just soften this background a little bit. So I use Topaz Denoise, And then I have a couple other ones that I use once in a while, and sometimes I'll have to try a couple to see if I like it. But with all, it was probably shot at a little bit of a higher ISO. So I think that might be why we get a little bit, and then, it looks really nice. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
I love the owl, but I'm wondering if just changing the background a little bit, it almost competes with the owl in color. Maybe just changing that background to a little lighter or something, so there's a little more contrast between the bokeh background and the owl. It might pop the owl out even more.
That was my main thought, because the colors are so similar. It's hard to give a distinction to that owl with that background.
And I may have darkened up its nose or something, its beak, I guess, to just make it a little bit more prominent. So your eye would know exactly which way it's pointing. Because I had the same thing, like, where's it going? Took
Yeah.
me a sec to just highlight that nose a little bit more, darken it or something.
I wish I would have taken it. Okay, we're gonna move to the next one. And we are back in Yellowstone. All righty, comments or questions?
I love the colors. I just wish there was more blue on top, so it'd really be like third. To me,
Yeah.
the blue is out of the third. So I would have maybe cut some of the bottom, but I like how it looks. So I just wish there was more blue on it, on the top.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying in the beginning. It's like I like all the cloud, and I don't know if we have that much room. I've never actually been to this location. I've seen millions of pictures of it, just never been there. But I think
Yeah, that's, you usually don't.
this is the bottom third, and this would be the top third. And yeah, I just wish there's a little bit more blue up there. So
That top part is usually just steam.
steam.
But this is a great example of your beginner students' idea that you don't need a subject, because it's a very interesting, almost surreal photo, not looking like anything. If you haven't been to Yellowstone, you wouldn't know what the heck you're looking at.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and like I said, I've never been there, but I've seen enough pictures of it, so I do know what it is and where it is. Otherwise, yeah, you're just kind of like, this could be an ocean, and this could be a beach, and this could be a drone shot from 500 feet in the air.
and that could be an octopus with its legs and its head up there. So
Yeah, his head right here, right?
yeah.
All the tentacles coming down.
The only other thing I clean up is over on this right-hand side, upper right, those white dots. Just get rid of those, and yeah, it's a cool shot. Really
Yeah.
cool shot.
Yeah, this is a great shot. I wonder how would this look if it was a vertical shot,
No.
kind of cropped down somewhere around the middle with the middle part up on the top.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think making it a slimline shot would be a stronger impact. Get rid of a lot of the foreground and just have the goals coming across those lines to lead you in. I think a slim line would have been, a 16:9 would have been a stronger impact for me.
That could work, yes. Very good. Lots of good stuff tonight. Okay, we're gonna go to one more. Oh, we got two more, sorry. Okay, so comments, questions?
Besides your comments about the yellow, which I agree, she could have, whoever was, took a couple steps over and kind of just separated that tower from the rock coming down. That would have been really cool. Like,
this one here coming
Yeah,
down.
just a
so-
little bit more disconnected from that. And it would have lined up that cloud above it. It almost looked like steam coming out.
Coming out of here.
But I thought it was looking like now. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
fortuitous.
one more
so,
foot.
Yeah. I've been there. It's an interesting place.
This is Cathedral Gorge, right?
Yeah. uh-huh.
Yes.
I've been there a couple of times, and for the life of me, I don't remember this thing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's over on the east side.
it's
Yeah,
pretty close to the beginning.
I'm sure it's there. I'm
Oh.
just,
I think it's
been
right
a
next to the bathrooms.
How would this look if it was like a 1x2 kind of crop, kind of eliminating some of the top, the sky?
a little bit up here.
Yeah.
A lot of interest here. So, it's a good place to go and just kind of walk around, because you can walk through kind of little bitty slot canyons and stuff there, and you have, different views straight up, different views down, and different views across. Everything's a different view over there. So this makes me want to go do a trip up there again.
There's a church in Spain, which I think is in Barcelona, which is the largest church in the world, that looks just like this, full of stalactites all the way around and creating the church.
Yeah.
And, so I found this park really quite interesting.
I think the last time I was here was actually a Nevada Camera Club trip. Several people just camped out there because there's a campground right there. And then some of us went into the town.
It's a distance.
Yes, it's kind of far. Okay, we got one more to talk about. Questions or comments?
I like this, but his leg back here on the top is just a little distracting for me. I don't know if cropping that out. Just bringing it over and cropping it out right there.
Right there.
I could try. I hadn't noticed that before. Mhm.
This is yours, John?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I love the eye on the thing. It's
The
really,
eye is awesome.
mm-hmm.
I had it placed that in the
You
third.
and the camera.
Yes, I don't know if you have more of that to have his foot back there.
I've got several of them. I'll take a peek. I also got them turning the way that you like, looking to the right. I didn't understand that rule when I shot this guy, but now I pretty much, like you say, read to the left, to the right, make my eyes go to the right if I can.
Well, and you could even just flip
it.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
just flip
You
this.
know.
So that was one of the comments, again, going back to this thing we just judged at CSN. There was a set of architectural images, and there are prints that are hanging on the wall that we judged. And there's one image I really liked it a lot, but the flag is blowing this way, to the opposite side. And I'm like, man, if they just would have flipped the negative and printed it that way, because you're not going to know any different. It's just a architectural background, and then the flag would be going the right way, and just makes my brain feel better.
So I will tell you something. I was getting really frustrated. We were on a Costa Rica workshop when I did this one, and I was shooting and shooting and shooting. I had F-22 on there, and I just couldn't get from the belly out in focus. And it was bothering me that I just got the front half in focus. And my instructor, goes back to basic photography back 100 years ago, said, take one step back. And I just was amazed that all my macro then it was totally in focus what I needed to whole bodies just by taking one step back. So just throw that as a tip.
Yeah, because it extends your depth of field a little bit.
Yeah.
So especially with macro, it you don't have a lot in the beginning. It goes out of focus quick. So very cool. So we're gonna go back one more time to the beginning. And I picked out 4 images that I like the most. So I don't necessarily have a placement of a 1, 2, 3, 4. I just have 4 winners. So the first one I picked for a winner is this image here from Gina. The second one I picked is the owl. The owl is from Richard Walker. The third one I picked is this one here, which is the trumpet from Julie Chadburn.
Mhm.
And then the last one I picked is the frog. And I didn't know who it was until John started talking because there was no name on the on the image when it came in. So
Oh, I thought I did.
that's-
Sorry about
that's
that.
That's John Lynch. Well, the email did say Team Lynch, but I just wasn't sure who Lynch
Oh.
was. So
Okay.
I do have a couple prizes. I was still waiting for a couple of the people to tell me what they're giving, so I will have that to everybody soon. But that was my 4 winners. That's my picks for this competition. When we get back to regular judges corner, I know if there's anybody here that sent me images. I know there is because I talked to a couple of you. So we will get those into the next judges corner. It's probably going to be May because, man, the rest of my April is just incredibly crowded. So I'm going to try and get this. Stop sharing. There we go. So I am going to get back to everybody on my winners and what we have for little prize things. I want to really thank everybody that entered. You guys were amazing. I loved looking at everything. I may bring a couple of these back to talk where we talked about cropping and stuff. And I did say that last month that I was going to bring a couple images back and crop and show you the whole thing and then show you what I meant by cropping in. So we will get to that next judges corner. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm a little bit hoarse. I have nothing to drink here at the office.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jerome.
you, Jerome.
Great
job,
great
Jerome.
class.
Thanks. See ya.